Hey everybody, how are you? It's what is it? Thursday night. I believe it's Thursday night. Yes, it's Thursday night, and you are on the lifeboat. See ya. 24 states plus 17 that are medical only. Yep. And there is some legislation pending in the bigger halls that might make it legal for the federals. And if it becomes federally legal, then states would actually have to go the other route. They would have to pass laws to make it illegal in that state, which then gets really dicey. It's really odd. They should just let all 50 states figure out what they're going to do. But that's a debate for a little bit later on. I saw Alan Ballantyne in here. It's my homeboy from over in Australia. Monk, good to see you, Monk. Barbara, what's happening? Debbie P, good to see you. Hello, Body Illusion. Body Illusion, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit later. Roberta, how are you? It's good to see you, Alan. I'm doing well. I really am doing well. All things considering, I can't complain. My sister, Curious George, hello and welcome. Lumen, there she is. I've got the cat chilling like a villain right next to me. And she got one arm completely outstretched, but with this sort of arrogant look on her face. It's, I don't know, it's quite regal. I like it. Janet G, it's good to see you. I'm pretty fired up to be here tonight, people. I really am. With my partner out of commission, if it wasn't for some boat shows, I wouldn't be doing anything. I'd start getting stir crazy. I really would. Yeah, I'm pretty happy though that that's not the case. I'm pretty happy that I can come here and do this. She's doing better, P. Taylor. She's doing better, but still having some problems through the throat. She's still got throat pain, and she still sounds like me a little bit. Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm hoping that tomorrow she'll be back in full form. I hope she's back raring to go, and we're going to be able to do a show. But if she's not, if she has to take more time off on Sunday, it's Mother's Day. On Sunday, we are definitely going to be doing a show because we want to. She does sound like she's doing phone sex. That's really funny. On Sunday, we're going to announce the next city we're heading to. So that will be on Sunday. There you go. There you go. This is a subject, people. You would think it's weed, right? What could possibly go wrong? Every time we do a show on weed, people start getting vicious with one another and getting ugly. We're not going to do that. I realize some of you have very strong feelings about this, but we're not going to be cruel to one another. Inappropriate heifer, I'm glad you're here. Miss Sunrise Dawn, how are you? Valerie Nagy, good to see you. See you. It's good to see you. See what I did there? Monk, glad you're here. Always a pleasure. So every time I talk about this subject, people get really hot and bothered about it. Hello, Moon Shadow, and people come down on either side of this equation. I don't much care. I don't care which side of the equation you come down. I really don't, but I want to have some discussions with people that have done some dope. You own a rec store in Washington since 2014. Well, all right, see you. Good. Maybe you can help us out. I am not, as you know, if you've been here before, I'm not an anti-drug channel. It's not what I do. I'm anti-addiction. Weed, for the most part, it's not something you really got to worry about being physically addicting. That's not an issue. And although it has been scheduled as a narcotic, it most assuredly is not. And I've talked about where I come down on this. Right, as long as it's not something that's taken over your life, then great. I view almost every drug on earth that way. Sorry, that's just how I look at it. But if it becomes a coping mechanism, instead of you doing more normal things, if if every time you get bummed out, you got to run off and smoke a joint or do a few bong hits, then I think that maybe that's an issue. But that's me. Yes, that's how it would be for me. Whatever you do is completely your deal. But I'm starting to wonder if there is a point at which driving up THC starts to become less productive, right? Or I don't know. You know this syndrome, this cannabis syndrome thing. So a relative of mine has this. Now, admittedly, he is of the the legal generation, right? He's considerably younger than I am, but he's of the legal generation, and he smoked a ton, and he smoked a ton of really good. I don't think he's ever seen brick pot in his life. I don't know if he knows that it exists. You know, he's never seen regs or commercial pot. The only thing he's ever seen is kind bud, but he's been in and out of the hospital. We talked about it last week, and he got released, and everything was groovy. He's back in today. Hello, Mo Love. He's not smoked more. He's not done anything to bring it back on. Now, for a long time, I thought it was BS. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think that existed. I thought it was one more thing that they lie to people about. Kimberly, good to see you. I just happen to know this cat really well. Like this is just somebody that I really, yeah. I mean, I've been a part of this person's life since they were probably 7, and it's unfortunate. But the saddest thing is that he's devastated at the prospect that there's no more of that in his life, right? This was a very big part of his day. This was a very big part of everything that he did. Yeah, they say the only thing that helps with that is a hot shower. I've heard the exact same thing. I've heard the same thing. But what happened to him is he vomited so much that if you can't stop vomiting, if you get dysentery or anything that keeps you vomiting for long periods of time, it's going to mess up your system, because you keep throwing stuff up and your body keeps trying to put back what you get out, and your electrolytes get way out of balance and everything gets really screwy. Jimena, good to see you. My son and I were talking about you earlier. West Coast Nancy, I'm glad you're here. Barbara C. The secondhand smoke is a migraine trigger for me. So it being smoked everywhere is an issue for me. The modern stuff is worse than it was 30 plus years ago. Here's my stance so that you guys, so this is that full disclosure thing where I tell you what's up with me. I use a cannabis product every single night. It's something I do every single night. It's how I get to sleep. It's not how I get to sleep. It's how I avoid certain dreams that were really messing with me, right? That were really giving me the business. So I am doing really, really well with this with these gummies. Now, I've said that from the very first night I tried them. I told everybody on the boat I was going to be doing it. I could go back and look and see when that is, because I also spent a lot of time journaling about it. Because when you're the captain of the lifeboat, right? It's probably one of those things. Subi says, my sister smoked weed daily for 50 plus years. She never got into any legal trouble, but her life motivation continued to lessen until her death last September. I'm sorry for your loss. I saw somebody that said that they'd never heard of anybody getting this. That was me for the longest time. But once I started the lifeboat, because this is what I do and this is where I sit, people come out of the woodwork, and I've talked to probably 24 people who have had to quit smoking pot permanently because every time they do, they get really, really sick. And I don't know if it's that we are driving THC through the roof, but I don't remember hearing about this ever when I was a kid. And back then, the pot just wasn't as good, right? Not even close. But we smoked nonstop. You know, we smoked a pile of it. But let's be honest, you couldn't genetically engineer something and be out in the open about it. You sure as hell can to do that now, though, can't you? Just Pauline, I'm glad you're here. Hey, Becca Jean. Sarah Normally, good to see you. My sister, Curious George. Misal smokes. Yeah, so you feel me? This is one of those things that that makes you go, huh? Right? It makes you go, huh? I don't care that there's dispensaries. Oh, by the way, Another one of those fun emails from you people. Another one of those fun emails. Boy, Reese said something on we did a live together, and she said something about eating a gummy before watching a movie or something to get the giggles, and people went nuts. God forbid somebody would get the captain to eat something like that. People, I eat a gummy every single night of my life, right? I've been doing this for probably 90 days, right? And I held out for a long time because being the captain of the boat, there's pressure to kind of hold out. You know, I don't want to be doing anything that somebody else out there is struggling with. Honestly, it's I kind of feel guilty when I have a beer, and I've never really had an issue with alcohol. Mark says, I wonder about gummies. The ones that I use are specifically designed to make you go to sleep. By way of full disclosure, I'm not taking stuff that is designed to keep you up and giggling or make you have fun. This is a 2-to-1 deal that knocks you out. Like, this is designed to put you to sleep. And it's excellent at that. But I'll tell you what, if I wanted to giggle with Quibble, all I'd have to do is maybe take my night dose an hour and a half early. But I don't think you got to worry about her dragging me into the depths of hell, people. And if you're somebody that sent me an email on that, I do appreciate you looking out. Swear to God, I do. But I got through Victorville. I got through Lewisburg. Right. I think I can get through hanging out and doing a show with Quibble. We'll be all right. Trust me. Trust me. But you guys are fun. You know, you make me want to sing that "Let's give them something to talk about" song and just drive you all nuts. Honestly, it just makes you want to get those people who are clutching pearls and see if you can get them to rip them off their neck. You feel me? It's just kind of fun. It really is. So a lot of places where you saw people when I first got in today, they were starting to pop off in the comment section about where they live or where certain parts of the country, what year things became legal for recreation versus people who are doing it for for medical stuff. All of this I find interesting. Gummies help me with my anxiety, just takes the edge off. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Sorry. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Sorry, I really don't. Now, again, if it's becoming an issue, but I got friends. I've talked about this so many times, but I got a dude. The amount of THC isn't as relevant as the terpene profile. Cannabis is definitely stronger than it was even 10 years ago, but the high isn't always better. I would believe that. What I'm more concerned about is if the manipulation of these plants may be leading to some of the stuff that we're seeing with the higher concentrations of THC in the system, right? Because we're plowing new territory, right? I mean, if we're being honest, there's no way to say we're not. When somebody comes out with something that's even stronger, they're not going, all right, let's test this crap for 4 years and see what it does. You know, they're just smoking that thing off the market as fast as they can do it. And it's going to be interesting to see, what this kind of THC saturation is going to do to people, because this certainly isn't what we were doing, right? This doesn't bear any friggin' resemblance in any way, shape, or form close to what we used to do. Took a gummy and 2 puffs, and then I was seeing sounds. Had cannabis twitches for over an hour. Not fun. Holy hell, that doesn't sound fun at all. Dexter Rhymes says, hey, Tommy, very good friend of mine taking RSO in the hopes that it will help shrink her lung cancer growth. Prayers would be appreciated for her. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dexter Rhymes. Thoughts and prayers for your friend. That's, I really hate that. I'm not a fan in any way, shape, or form of that. Cannabinoid hypermesis. Yeah, I can never say that right. Someone needs to phonetic that baby out for me. Syndrome, that is the CHS. I truthfully believed this was BS. My whole life, I've been watching people lie to younger generations about weed. I've watched them lie to them about everything, right? They never tell you the truth about drugs. So I assumed this was another propaganda thing, kind of like gynecomastia, right? I'm not saying that doesn't happen. It happens. But they made it sound like, 1 in 4 kids are going to develop breasts if they smoke weed. Boys are going to start developing female breast tissue if they start smoking. When I was in high school, this is what they were telling us. And it became a standing joke, right? All of the pot smokers, we look at each other and go, dude, you're obviously not smoking enough. You know what I mean? You're not even sporting an A cup yet. But it was a joke. We knew everything they told us was bullshit. There was no reason to believe that was going to be any different. So I wholeheartedly believe that this was BS. However, there is no chance on God's green earth that the individual I'm talking about, there's no way this boy's BSing, and neither is his doctor. This is a very, very crazy thing. There's a very conservative state senator who wants to legalize. Very conservative. I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. There we go. Hypermasis. There you go. Hypermasis. Masis? Hypermasis? Yeah, masis. That's what it is. If there was an A, you would have done AY. So hypermasis. There we go. Cannabis hypermasis syndrome. Okay, I can buy that. Inappropriate Heifer says, look likes, I'm going to do a deep dive on CHS. I'm not joking. Dozens of people that I know have reported back that this is something that they've been diagnosed with. Valerie 102 says, I was told as a teen that all street weed was laced with PCP. You can raise your hand if you got told that one too, right? Everything was laced, remember? Everything. The problem with telling kids that is no one ever met anybody that smoked anything laced, right? So credibility goes away after 2 years of partying. You go, that's such BS. By the way, I also didn't know anyone that was developing female breast tissue. Then they had a guy, you can look this cat up. He was the dude that they based the TV show Beretta on, and he used to go around the country to schools and do speeches about not doing drugs, that kind of stuff. Cosmic Christie, good to see you. He came to our school. His name was David Toma, right? He was David Toma. He came to our school and he told us 25 stories about kids who smoked pot, dropped dead the very first time. First time they took a hit of it into their lungs, dropped dead. And this was, he talked about so many people that this had happened to. And we're all just, everybody's looking around going, weed, right? One hit of weed, person dropped dead. No, I'm sorry. Like, there's no reason to BS this. We can stick with the truth, right? But once the people you're telling these lies to, right, the next generation, once they realize you lied to them on the first thing, well, then maybe those Percocet 30s aren't as dangerous as they keep making it out to be. In fact, all the overdoses they're talking about on the news, I don't know anybody that's overdosed. Maybe they're BSing, right? They've lied to us about everything else. If you lose credibility on the small crap, when you really need it on the big stuff, when you look at your kid and you plead with them, please don't do any pills, right? Don't do anything unless it comes out of a pill bottle that's got your name on it, right? If you've been you know what, in them the entire time, they're going to go, okay, I promise, Dad, right? Ain't no way that's going to happen. Renee, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Hello, darling. Kathy Ann. My husband has brought up moving to a THC legal state for my pain, but I just can't pull my kids from a family like that. Tennessee will be the very last, it seems. You know what? I wouldn't rule anything out. I think the whole country's going to go. I really believe that. Renee Woods, it's good to see you. Rusty Glider, glad you're here. I think the whole country will go. Rick Spicer, the reason that I think it's going to go is just going to be pure economics. It's just going to be pure economics. When people are leaving your state with tens of millions of dollars to go to other states and spend money, that's an issue. States don't like that. They would really like to keep their money in their state if at all possible. So right now, cannabis vacations are a real thing. Right? This is a very, very legitimate thing where people drive across the border to buy. And if you've spent any time in a dispensary, guaranteed you've been in one where you see somebody walk in and go, holy crap, this place smells like weed. And you know it's the first time they've ever stepped into a legal, and they look gun shy as hell. They don't want to call it pot, and it's funny. I felt like that the first time I walked into one. It was terrifying. I felt like they got to be outside ready to arrest people. This just doesn't make sense. West Coast Fancy Nancy says, I believe you. I take edibles to sleep and sometimes for anxiety. Years ago, someone made homemade edibles. I got so sick. I was tripping and was very scared. It does not sound fun. Does not sound fun. Mark Adams says, I sniffed glue as a kid. I do not want any people to ever sniff glue. Boy, oh boy, you talk about a rugged habit. And I'm not picking on you because I think whether or not you sniffed glue comes down to where you grew up. Honestly, what you did as a kid. If you were into making models, chances are you probably huffed some glue, right? That's something that was pretty real. Honestly, I never did. And I never saw anybody do any of that until I was in prison. And I was putting something up where I worked, which was in the kitchen. What we were putting up is we were going to be hanging up our menus on the wall so that the cooks knew ahead of time what we were making that day and they could pull the stuff. And it was a good theory. But I had to glue these huge things up to the wall, and they bought this like liquid cement stuff to put it up with. And I took a bottle about this big home, and I was putting something up on my wall, and the local loser that lived next door to me, they called him Cat, right? Good to know. Good to know. This guy called himself Cash, but Cash came over and said, dude, I know what that smell is. Where is it? Like, he's in my face. I go, what are you talking about? He's like, that smell. I'm like, it's glue. Calm the hell down, dude. I'm putting something up on the wall. He's like, I want that. And I go, yeah, I'll give you a little bit of it. You want to, he's like, no, bro, I want it to huff. I was like, to do what? He's like, yeah, you put it in a plastic bag. And I didn't want to do it. I honestly didn't want to do it. I did it because I wanted to see what it was going to do to him. I know that that's not cool, right? But I said to him, well, what's this worth? It was what was an over-the-counter pill bottle, one of the clear ones. It's about that tall. So a couple of ounces of liquid cement. He goes, I'll give you $100 for it. I said, $100 for this. The crap, the bucket that I had in my office to put stuff up with was one of those huge drywall buckets full of this crap. I looked down and thought, like, there's never been a bigger moneymaker in prison. If this guy wants to buy this stuff at $100 a piece, I could sell this to him forever. But watching them scared the crap out of me. They poured this stuff into a bag, started doing this stuff, and the smell of, you could literally smell this stuff on the people's breath. You know what? Dainty Gorilla says, I know of somewhere there was a lot of people huffing gas, and it was a really bad, serious problem for that area. I'll tell you something. I have spoken about this before, but I had a cellmate who, yes, I remember Aaron Carter accidentally got caught huffing keyboard cleaner. He was doing that like dust off stuff, and he said he was joking and all of that afterwards. I don't believe that. No, it is a nasty habit. The reason huffing is such a bad habit is it's not getting you high the way anything else on the market gets you high, right? It's just you're not getting oxygen, right? That's what you're doing. You're replacing oxygen with a different gas, and it's causing brain cells to pop like popcorn, and that's why you feel a buzz. It's really one of the worst things in the world that you can do. Because it really will take you off the planet. Now, back to the gas. I had a cellmate when I was in the special management unit. His name was Donald Scott Taylor. I'll give out his entire name because Donald Scott Taylor will not be suing me. I don't think he's too concerned about this. He's dead. But when I moved into the cell with him, he had chewed the ears off of 2 cellmates. I'm not being funny. I have all the paperwork and everything from it. But when I first got in there, he goes, hey, do you do drugs? I said, I do. Yep, I absolutely do. And he goes, what was your drug of choice? I said, well, I was pretty equal opportunity drug abuser, but the one that I couldn't stop doing was heroin. I said, that's the drug that I did every day. So I had a real problem with it. That's why I robbed banks, yada, yada. He killed people, which is why he was in jail. But I said, what was your drug of choice? And he said, gas. Now, if you've been in the drug world for 30 or 40 years, when you hear gas, like I didn't think gas. I thought, well, that's a cool name for a drug. Like, I wonder what gas is, right? It's probably got some kind of meth in it, right? I'm thinking of whatever the hell they're mixing up and calling gas. No. I said, yeah, what's in gas? What is that? He goes, what's in it? I said, yeah, what's in the gas? He goes, gasoline. You put it in a car, it runs. I go, that's your drug of choice? How in hell are you doing gasoline? He goes, you breathe it in, the fumes coming off the top of it. I said, you have got to be woofing me. That's what you do to get high? He said, yeah. I said, oh my God. He goes, yeah, I lived in a field. I lived in on a farm out in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico. He's like, as far as you could see in every direction, there's nothing but fields of soy. And he said there was nobody to hang out with. There was nothing to do, but he had a 500-gallon tank of gasoline on that property. He's like, I had a never-ending supply. He's like, I loved that buzz. And, he said his mother would catch him. His mother would come in and go, let me smell your breath, because you're breathing that crap down into your lungs. Like, you can brush your teeth and whatever, but you're going to smell like gasoline for a hot minute. Terrifying, right? Absolutely terrifying. Jeff says, I can't do weed sporadically. Sadly, there are a lot of people that can't. That's the fact that you know that, right? That's a drug you can't do, right? There are drugs I can't do. There are drugs a lot of people can't do. I'm not anti-drug. I'm anti that, right? If it's got your number, if you have to do it all the time, maybe it's not such a good thing, but that would be your decision, right? Kristen, Melinda, you make me laugh. That's really funny. That's really funny. Gasoline, huh? Any port in a storm, I guess. Always been one of my favorite expressions. Yes, any port in a storm. But that's his drug of choice, right? Tamber June says, I don't get high with cannabis, but it really helps my nausea from chronic pancreatitis. It saved my life. I take RSO and I have a pen. You know something? Its properties to keep people from vomiting, to use it as an anti-regurgitant instead of using something like Phenergan, right? Using weed instead. Man, it's hard to argue with the science of that one, man. It really is. It is amazing what it does to keep you from feeling nauseous. I went through a period of time where I was not really nauseous for about 16 weeks, and the only thing that brought me any relief was weed. Valerie says, I am using weed this time, trying to be sober off alcohol. It's working, but I don't feel great about it. Harm reduction. Hey, do not badmouth harm reduction. Please, don't badmouth harm reduction, right? Are you in a hurry? Honestly, are you in a hurry? You got to be in a hurry to get off alcohol, because alcohol will kill you. I don't know that you got to be in a hurry to get off of weed. If weed is helping you, roll with it. Kristen Melinda says, Phenergan, knock me out. Yeah, well, Phenergan, number one, I don't like Phenergan because it makes my head feel like it's like you get the bed spins. I get that from Phenergan, which is really what it's supposed to not do. It's supposed to, calm down your stomach, make sure you don't feel like you're on a boat. It does the exact opposite to me. And the other fun thing is they never write you a prescription for it that you're supposed to swallow, right? They always want you to hoop that thing like you're in prison. And if I'm in prison and I have to get something from one place to another, right? If I have to cram something up my backside, I'll do it. I think there's a better way to take medicine. I feel like if I have to stick my finger in my rectum to take a pill, I probably need to find a new doctor, because that just doesn't make sense. Jimena says, I haven't done weed since I stopped smoking. I'm not addicted. It was just recreational, but I think it will make me want to smoke, and I am resisting the urge. Good for you. Good for you. And this one, I don't think anybody will argue with, even if you happen to believe in either side of the equation. Hold on one second. Though, what are my thoughts on Chantix? So Chantix is bupropion, right? It is the same drug as Wellbutrin. It's the same drug as Wellbutrin. It's just an off-label treatment. It's an off-label usage of the of Chantix, right? And an off-label. I mean, it's an off-label of the generic of the Bupurion. So it seems it seems for a lot of people to work. It did not work for. Yeah, I'm not even going to try that. Let's just go with number 4. Schedule 4. Okay, yeah. Put you in the nut house. A lot of people either love or hate Wellbutrin, right? It's always one or the other. People say, yep, here you go. Nightmares, another thing I hear all the time, right? Another thing I hear all the time from people is that it gives them nightmares. By way of full disclosure, I take a crap load of that drug, right? I take a crap load of that drug, far more than they write you a prescription for with Chantix. Probably about 3 times what the Chantix dose is, and I take that every day. They make an under-the-tongue version of Zofran. I did not know that. You heard Chantix was pretty bad news. Well, some people, it's awful. Some people, it's a miracle. Cosmic Christie says naltrexone helped me. Last night we had someone that said naltrexone's the worst thing in the world, right? Listed off all the horrible things it did to him. Never let somebody say to you, this drug is awful, don't do it. Because the way you're going to react to it has zero, nothing to do at all with how they're going to react to it. There's honestly no rhyme or reason at all to why one person reacts to a drug the way they do and another person doesn't. That drug that has literally ruined my life, there was a crap load of people in that study, right? They're not all where I'm at. There was a bunch of them that were going, no, what do you mean I got to stop taking this? There were people who thought that was a miracle. It's pretty damn sad. Wellbutrin works for me decently as an antidepressant, though not to quit smoking. Yeah, I never took it to quit smoking. But no, I was going to say maybe I was on it when I quit smoking, but I wasn't. But Wellbutrin was weird because when I was in the feds, Wellbutrin was the most abused drug in the world. Everybody and their brother was snorting it, shooting it. It was really kind of stupid. It would give you a buzz for about 5 or 10 minutes, and it would destroy your nose. People would get horrific nosebleeds, but it really was an issue. A lot of guys were doing it, and then all of a sudden one day they just went, "I don't care if you're on that, you're not taking it anymore. We're putting you onto a different drug," and that's a horrific thing to do to somebody. It really is. It's a horrible, horrible thing to do to somebody. Jeff says Macuna is a nice natural dopamine agonist. I don't know what that is. The Macuna. I know what a dopamine agonist is. I do not know what Macuna is or how you take it, but I would be curious, Jeff. Is it a root? What are we working with there? Chantix would be Bupurion. Bupurion is Wellbutrin. That's what the generic name of Wellbutrin. Correct. It's a bean, comes in a pill. Okay. So, and are you in the US? Is this something they're selling over the counter? Because I'm shocked I've not heard of it. It left craters in the skin of a girl I knew. If you're talking about shooting Wellbutrin, oh God, help you. If that Wellbutrin does not hit the vein, it's going to destroy all of the skin around it. When Dainty Gorilla says it left craters in the skin, we're talking about craters. It's instant necrosis. It's a form of idope. Really? Idopa. Do you mean Iboga? Do you mean that's like from the same strain as like Ibogaine and that Iboga? Because I don't know Idopa, but I sure as hell know Iboga. Macuna honey, says Jeremy Shelton. See, Jeremy Shelton is he'll shock you sometimes. He's a Renaissance man. The risks people take to get high astounds me. It shouldn't, but it does. You know what, Cosmic Kirsty? Let's take that one a little uglier. So in prison, I remember once, L-Dopa is a precursor to dopamine. I'll be damned. Thank you, Jeff. I remember being in prison and watching a group of guys. They were negotiating a price to buy a needle that a guy had managed to pull out of his syringe at in the morning when he did his insulin shot. He was able to get that needle out. He brought it back and he was trying to sell it to the fellas. He wanted $100 for a used insulin needle. The barrel's not there. The plunger's not there. There's nothing there but the metal, the point itself. And these guys are ready to buy it because they're going to shoot dope into that. They're going to use that needle for probably 2 years. And every single person in that unit is going to be using it. But I watched them sitting around and they had dope on the table and they were trying to get this needle put together. And all of them have the shakes, right? Because they're all dope sick. And they're melting the needle, melting the Bic pen to get the needle to be stuck in there. It's like a permanent fixture, right? They call this thing a binky. And then on the end of it, you get like a rubber, like an eyedropper thing. And that's what you use. They call it a binky. It's horrific. But one of the guys, I was in a 3-man cell at the time. There was only 2 of us in there, but we had a couch. We had a third bed and a bunch of guys used to hang out in there. But after everybody's shooting, it's so sad, Shannon, but after everybody was done shooting, there was a guy that goes, "Hey man, can I use your point?" And the standard thing is, okay, yeah, if you give me one, if you want to use my needle, and I never did this, I didn't shoot dope in prison. It was way too disgusting to even think about. But if you were going to use a person's needle, you had to give them a shot. Nobody does anything for free in prison, right? You're not borrowing my needle unless I'm getting high too. But this kid came in and said, "I just want to use it to shoot some Wellbutrin." And it was amazing to me because the 5 people in the room turned and looked at this kid and went, "What the hell is the matter with you, man? Like, you're going to stick that stuff in your vein?" I go, "You're giving this kid shit because he wants to shoot Wellbutrin. You dirt bags are melting a pen around a syringe that you can pass around to all of the fellows in the room. Something really wrong with you, right? It's pretty terrifying." Yeah, my sister George says, "Worked in healthcare for 30 years. This is sad and disturbing." I'm not joking you. The era, right? The boys call it an era or a banger, an era. But you got one of those points. People don't lose those. It's the most important thing in their life because if they've got one built, then chances are they're not going to have to buy drugs because the people who want to inject need a needle. And they're going to go to that dude that's got it, and he's going to go in there and pull his needle out and set stuff up. And yeah, that's the person's hustle. So every time they hear the doors come in and people yell, nobody flushed the toilets, right? All that. Usually they turn the toilets off about 4 minutes ahead of time. And they're coming in. They're going to take that syringe and they're going to stick it up their backside. I promise you. And it's happening every day right now across the country as we're speaking. You know what, SB? You do not owe us an apology, but thoughts and prayers for your upcoming surgery. On the bright side, when we do roll call, it's not to call you on not being here. It's just to say hello. Yeah, never feel bad about that. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, cleaning sucks when you're not getting ready to have surgery. When you're getting ready to have surgery, that just sounds downright awful, to be honest. It just sounds awful. So thoughts and prayers. I hope you are feeling. I hope you're back to us quickly and feeling good. I really do. But yeah, so it's a fairly disgusting world in there. It really is. But I remember sitting there looking around and going, this was the world that I lived in for 3 decades and never thought it was messed up. While I was sitting in the middle of it and guys were melting needles and doing stuff like that, I had my tin foil. I was putting my works out in the corner to get high the way I was but I was doing the same crap. And I was smack in the middle of it with guys using needles and passing them back and forth. You get to a point where you're not even seeing the things around you as disgusting anymore, right? You know what they do, Goosebump? It's a great question. It really is. It's a great question. How do they avoid getting stuck by the needle once it's up there? Picture the clear Bic pen. You know the one I'm talking about, the clear one that you can see through. You see the ink disappearing in, not the Bic pens that you can't see through, but the ones that are clear, very hard plastic. That's what they're made out of. But they cut it down so that it's only about that big because they want it small enough, but they will keep it, basically its structural integrity stays the same. So what happens is that black cap that goes on the end of it or the blue cap that goes on the end of it, they put that on and then they take it to the hoop. Horrific, right? Horrific. But it's just kind of how it goes down. Yeah, it's pretty nasty. Do most have hepatitis? According to the Bureau of Prisons, right? According to the Bureau of Prisons, 35% of people in there have hepatitis. 35%. So more than 1 in 4. I'll be really honest. I never believed that statistic because I don't think I ever met anybody that didn't have it. So they used to claim it was 30%. Now, maybe that's because at the lower custody levels, like the level 1, level 2, and those yards that aren't really rugged, right? Yes, they do test regularly. They test several times a year. They test several times a year for Hep C. But everybody I knew had it. Everybody. In fact, when you said to somebody, "Do you have Hep C?" they would usually go, "Yeah, I got genome 5." They'll tell you what the genome type is. They'll tell you if they've ever had it treated or if they're planning on having it treated. The one thing I will say is this: the government was trying to eradicate Hep C inside federal prison. So if you said, "I want to be on Harvoni," they would put you on it instantly. And that's 80 grand if you were on the street. But they did it for anybody that wanted to do it. Most guys don't want to do it because once you do that, you really got to stop shooting dope. You really got to stop doing all of the things that you were doing that is threatening that part of your body because it's worthless, absolutely worthless to go and get treatment if you're still going to be just putting, more Hep C into your vein all the time. So a lot of guys won't go for the treatment. I went in, I had Hep C. I went in and they said my numbers were too good. They said that the Harvoni would do more damage. The treatment would do more damage to my liver than the disease was doing to my liver at that time. And I really honestly thought they were stroking me. And then the next time I went in, the doctor said to me, "Oh, no, you spontaneously healed." They tell you stuff like that in the Bureau of Prisons, and you just look at them like, come on, dude. I spontaneously healed. That just sounds like you made that up, right? That really sounds like you made that up. But when I got out and I went to a real doctor, the guy said, no, it happened. About 1.5 million. He said, but it does happen. And no joke, I spontaneously healed. When you test me, it shows that I had it in my system. And what they always say is, "Oh, when did you get treated?" Every time I get tested, they'll go, "When was your treatment?" Because it always looks, you leave something behind, I guess. They can tell that you've had it, but that you don't currently have it. But I never got treated. Cricket says, Harvoni also kicks a person's ass. Talk about may feel drowsy, absolutely miserable. I can't begin to tell you the number of people that I know who have taken it. And yeah, it really kind of knocks you down. Dainty Gorilla, it is absolutely a fact. See, Shannon Smith says, my sister healed from Hep C too. What's crazy is Johnny Scoville did. Both of us had it. Both of us spontaneously healed. But we had the same genome. I didn't catch it in prison. I never once used a syringe in prison. Never. Not once. Scared the crap out of me. But did the prison ever offer vaccines when you start your sentence, like for hepatitis? They do. They will give you vaccines for hepatitis A and B if you are willing to sign up for it. They will also give you about 3 times a year. They're trying to come in and give you a shot for something. But I saw the food they order. You know what I mean? They don't order grade A food. Kind of freaks me out to know where they're buying their vaccines. If there is a China discount vaccine company, I guarantee you the Bureau of Prisons is shopping there. What about TB? Tons of people have TB in prison, but they separate you very quickly. As soon as you walk into a prison, the very first thing they do is separate you and test you instantly for TB. And if you got TB, you're off. They're going to get you out of there, away from everybody else, because one guy can screw up a unit in a matter of minutes. You're in a petri dish, your air conditioner blows to the next cell, to the next cell, to the next cell. Honestly, they would pepper spray a guy in cell 1. The guy in 32 is going to be just as gassed out as the guy in 1. It'll take 6 minutes for it to get to him, but there's really no difference at all. And funny, inside the gate, marijuana is sold by the cap, right? The system of measurement is a cap. And the cap, Timu vaccine, very funny. Very, very funny. Very well done. Heifer, that's funny. In fact, that's really funny. They sell it by the cap. And a cap is exactly that. It is the cap off of a chapstick. So you take the cap off of a chapstick and pack it with weed as tight as you can get it, and that's a cap, $100. Now, it's not cheap pot. Nobody smuggles cheap pot into prison, right? Because if you can't get high on one hit, there's nobody that's going to have any interest in buying it because it's expensive as hell. So usually it's really good stuff, and very often they'll get dabs and other stuff in there. But the people who smoke weed, like weed smokers, they're like heroin addicts. I'm not kidding. Heroin addicts are going to get heroin into that prison. Trust and believe they're going to get heroin in. They're going to find a way. But people who smoke weed are the same way. You cannot stop weed smokers in there. Cosmic Christie, I hear this story all the time. I know it probably sounds like they're BSing you, but on catch up, I finally hung up from fighting the government today. But apparently my liver had healed so fast from my abuse of it, from alcohol, that by the time I'd finished my detox, all of my numbers were healthy. I don't doubt that. I do not doubt that. I was talking about this yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, how fast the human body regenerates. Hello, Wharton. Once you stop the abuse, whether it's smoking cigarettes, whether it's smoking crack, whether it's shooting heroin, when you stop the abuse, like no BS, that's it, I'm done, and you start trying to get healthy, it's astounding how fast your body will bounce back. Absolutely remarkable. Now, back to the cannabis. Yep, Dainty Girl says, yes, a family member had her numbers up in 2 weeks. She was drinking moonshine. Oh, a lot of it. Moonshine is rugged. I used to make moonshine in prison, and not good stuff. That would be about a half a gram. I'll have to remember that story when people complain about $10 grams. Let me tell you something. So if somebody brings in a gram, one measured gram, runs about $300. It's about $300 a gram for pedigree pot. If it came from a dispensary and somebody can put a cool name on it, right? If you're buying White Widow or if you're buying something, it's staggeringly expensive, and people will continue to buy it again and again and again and again. I got on my second prison sentence, I got paid for a gambling debt from pretty famous gangster. But the guy owed me a bunch of money, and I said, hey, are we going to square up? It's Tuesday. And he's like, yeah, don't trip. He's like, and we were in a lockdown unit. He goes, I'm going to come by, and I'll send somebody by to slide the envelope under your door. I'm expecting books of stamps, maybe 30 or 40 books of stamps. Instead, what was in there was like 3 caps full of weed. And my cellmate was like, we got to smoke this, man. Like, we got to smoke this. And I said, yeah, all right, we'll do it. When we started smoking it out of apples, taking little one-hitters, and we ended up getting wrecked. We were going back and forth, just smoking, and Ended up smoking the entire thing. And about 2 days later, one of the white boys came up and goes, "Hey, man, I was just talking to so-and-so. I was trying to buy some weed from him. He said he gave all of it to you." And I was just like, "Oh, man, what a dick." I said, "Yeah, we already smoked that." The white boys, man, were unhappy, like for real. My cellmate looked at me and he goes, "We need to start drinking water as fast as we can." And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Because they're going to come by in the next 20 or 30 minutes to piss test us." He's like, "For real, that they're going to be so angry that we smoked all the pot and have none of it for them." He goes, "We're going to get told on." I'm like, "That's ridiculous." Sure as shit. Within 30 minutes, they were at the door going, "You guys need to take a drug test." But they give you 45 minutes to drink water. I mean, if you honestly, those crappy tests in there, they're not hard to beat. Am I the only one that remembers buying a bag by 4 or 5 fingers as weight? Yeah, or a lid, 3-finger bag. No, that was a that was a thing. I very distinctly remember. I very distinctly remember that. Uh, you got an H for your liver. Basically, really bad news. After quitting drinking, I got the old liver up to an A grade. But it is absolutely possible. It really is absolutely possible. I'm blown away on the regular basis by how many people come back from the brink. How many people are just you look at them and you go, "There's no way this person's ever coming back ever." I knew guys that hit reverse tolerance. Their liver got so bad that they could drink one 16-ounce beer and they would be sideways drunk because their liver's not processing any of the alcohol out. It's just going around in circles, around in circles, around in circles. Yeah, we had a friend that was they were talking about him dying, and they had written him off for real. And yeah, but he quit doing everything. He got healthy, he started working out. You do have to take drastic measures. If your body is in drastically bad shape, you got to take drastic measures to get back to where you need to be. However, just stopping whatever damage you're doing, harm reduction, stop the damage that you're doing now. You can always double back, right? You can always make more progress. But harm reduction, if you're lighting stuff on fire and breathing it into your lungs, you got to stop. You got to stop, right? It's 2024. Honestly, I don't think that you should be inhaling smoke. It's a bad idea. Went to the doctor for my annual physical yesterday. I have a contract for my Audubon 30 half 0.05 pills per year. I'm sorry, what? Since weed is legal in Minnesota now, new doctor is fine with me taking gummies to sleep. I want to tell you something. They're going to give you 30 pills for a year? That seems really odd. Then that's lorazepam. And I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to sound like a junkie or anything like that, but 0.05 ain't going to get it done. Honestly, that's not the pink ones, right? The pink ones were 10 times that strength. No joke. Shannon, it is the last. What I said is it's the last way for me to slow heart flutter. The first thing you do is bear down as hard as you can, and they say to do it hard enough that you probably should do it on the toilet, right? But that's the first thing that they tell you to do is to bear down. The second thing they tell you to do is to actually try to get it to sort of kick up. Like if something is too stuck, like your emergency brake, if it doesn't want to go back down, you have to pull it a little tighter to drop the button and make it go back down. Same kind of a principle, right? They want you to so drop down and do 10 push-ups, 15 push-ups, do a couple of jumping jacks in place. It's happening now. Okay. And if all else fails, Shannon, if all else fails, get away from everybody else because you really have to, it's blood curdling, right? It's a scream where you really let it fly. But that I've gotten to the point twice where I had to scream to make it stop, but it did. Yeah. Inappropriate heifer says 0.5 did nothing for me. I was taking 3. Yeah. So you were taking 6 times that? Yeah. Fives were the good ones, right? So not even ones, right? Double that. That's not even good. You really need the fives. Those were the little pink houses. But that is, and this is an improvement. Used to be 30 every 2 years. Oh, wow. You need a new doctor. Thea says doctors have been slow to accept medical benefits. The schedule change from 1 to 3 should help. I think it will to some degree, but there's not a lot of people from the cannabis community taking doctors out to lunch and buying them trips to the Bahamas, right? But Big Pharma's been doing that for a really, really long time. Miss Sunrise Dawn says, I was just standing here minding my own business and I was mowed over by a racing tortie. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do know what that's like. Currently, I don't have to worry about it because currently Squirrel Nut is doing what she does. But yeah, in about an hour and a half, she'll get up, for the night routine, and she'll act like an idiot for the rest of the night because that's how she rolls. Rick Spicer, how are you, bud? Good to see you. It's frightening that there are people out there that are going to restrict medication to 30 of something. What if you need more than that? What if you need more than that? So this doctor is so freaking smart. He can predict ahead of time how many panic attacks you're going to have, how many anxiety issues you're going to have over the next year. What if you have 35? You need a new doctor. Man's a douchebag or woman, either way. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Ativan, lorazepam is used to treat people who have, like onset of panic attacks, things that come on real quickly. You take it whenever you need it. You can't restrict that, right? How often do you need it? Well, I don't know. If you have a bad month, you might have 10 panic attacks in a month. You have 3 bad months in a row, and then the following month is really going to suck. Because when those panic attacks come on, you're not going to have anything to treat them. Yeah, your doctor's an idiot. That's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It really is. And Cricket says, I only take them when I feel a panic attack coming on or when I haven't been able to sleep for like 3 days because the howler monkeys in my head won't shut the F up. I understand. Trust me, I understand. But you know what? There's no way you or your doctor or Miss Cleo, right, can predict how many times that's going to happen to a person in a year. And to say that I'm going to restrict this to 30, what they're really saying is, we don't believe what you're saying. So no one's really going to have more than 30 of those in a year. So that's where we'll just set them. They should be hit in the head for real. That's a larynx. That's a larynx shot. Just punch them in the throat. Rather than treating the addicts as people who need extra help. No, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. I don't think doctors are allowed to take kickbacks. The difficulty here is overregulation for people who don't need the regulation. They treat all medicine needers as addicts. I believe that. That's not unique. That's over here as well. Rather than treating the addicts as people who need extra help. That's the entire planet, sadly. There are a few places that are really starting to treat addiction. They're starting to treat addiction with what addiction is. They're starting to actually take the time to study it and to be smarter about it. You like the Miss Cleo? Did you dig that? Miss Dragon, it's good to see you. Your thoughts and prayers for the hubby. I'm glad he's out of the hospital. That's awesome. That really is. That's awesome. Debbie P says, I'm on clonazepam, brand name Klonopin. 1 clonazepam a day. Thank God I have extras from several years ago. No GP said got to find a new shrink, which is hard with Medicare and Medicaid and no cash, or you got to go to the ER. Debbie P, when you say you take 1 clonazepam, do you mean 1 milligram of clonazepam? Because Klonopin you can get in you can get it in 5s, you can get it 0.5, you can get it in a 1, you can get it in a 2, and I think they might even make larger now. 2 used to be the biggest. Yeah, that used to be the biggest, but not anymore. Yeah, I love that he's back home. That's awesome. Yeah, and your first doctor was such a jackwagon that he knew you were only going to need 15 a year, right? So we're going to let you have one a month, right? But 3 months, you can have one extra panic attack and feel good about it. That is the dumbest crap I've ever heard in my life. It really is. Yeah, that's just plain stupid. Down to 1 milligram. Okay. Yeah, there's a big push right now. There's a really big push right now. A knee-jerk reaction, like they always do. One of the most abused drugs in our country, very popular abused drug, is alprazolam. Right? It is super popular with the younger generations. When we were kids, Xanax looked like footballs, right? And Xanax, a big Xanax was 1 milligram. Now they make fives. They make those Xanax bars. And once they started making bars, once they started putting huge amounts in there, it really became popular with the younger generation. And I mean, those younger generation are in their 30s now, but you know what I'm saying. The people that came up after us, alprazolam was a really big deal. Little pink footballs, that's right. Some of them were blue, some of them were pink. Then they went to the big bars. But doctors, because of how popular it's getting, it's what we always do. When a drug starts getting really popular, we start restricting how many prescriptions we write. But we do it blanketed across the board. So you who are not a drug seeker, you who really just need to be treated, right? Yes, alprazolam, aka Xanax. Those who actually need it, and there are plenty of people who actually need benzos. There are people that need them. Aliub says, my mother abused the hell out of Xanax. I think she took the blue ones. You know what? A lot of people abuse benzos. A lot of people do. But yeah, Xanax is super popular with kids. Super popular with kids. Because of that, it's also one of the most counterfeited drugs in America. Of course, the most counterfeited drug being the fake Percocet 30s, right? The Perc 30s are everywhere, right? But most people who are buying those at least know it's an opiate, right? When the people are buying Xanax bars, they don't know they're getting fentanyl, but most of them are, right? They're pressing fentanyl into everything. Yemena, it's incredible the differences in regulations between different countries. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I have spent a lot of time in other countries. I currently live on the border of another country. I can drive into Mexico and I can walk into a pharmacy and I can buy Xanax, I can buy Valium, I can buy any drug I want. Just no prescription, no nothing. You say to the pharmacist, hey, I want this. They go, yeah, hold on. They come back and they hand it to you. There's none of that, none of the headache involved with, and it's funny because I live in a stage in my life. We've gone down twice, right? Gone down twice to go get drugs since I've moved here. Inhalers, and then a drug that they wrote me a prescription for that had something to do with my brain. But Mexico was ridiculous, wasn't it, Alan? You just walk in and ask them for whatever you want, they'll give it to you. Garrett Brown says, way back in high school, I had a script for Xanax. One night I felt a panic attack coming, so I dosed. I still felt it, so I dosed again. Yeah. A lot of times you can get onto that. And the next thing you know, you wake up, there's 9 of them missing, and you can't remember anything that happened. Yeah, this continued out through the night until I consumed about 10 4 milligram bars and ended up losing my memory of the next 24 hours. Boy, I hate to say I called that one, but boy, I called that one. Scary stuff to be sure, my brother. But there are other substances that I see they're being sold easily, and here we need prescriptions. It's very different. It is. It absolutely is. But know that they are much bolder selling to people that they know just came across from the U.S. too, because you're going to disappear with it. You're not going to be wandering around and getting caught. You're going to hide that and then drive back to the wherever you're from. Sia says, do you think there is a correlation between the pharmacy companies upping dosages and the drive to use higher THC products? I can talk for ages on how it's going with that in the legal markets. I'm really, I don't want to see, I don't want to see weed become something that it isn't. I hope that they don't turn weed into a super drug. I've talked about smoking dabs in prison, and it scared the crap out of me. It was so damn strong. I cannot, and I've done, I've eaten half sheets of acid, right? But I honestly, I remember smoking that and looking at the kid I was with. I was like, holy crap, you do this on purpose? This isn't fun. He's like, no, I'm not having any fun either. Thea says we agree on that. Good. I think that I also think that if you wanted to kill the cannabis movement, maybe the easiest way to do it wouldn't be to fight it. Maybe the easiest way to do it would be to just let it run in whatever direction it wants, and then just push it a little farther than it wants to go, and get it there a little faster than it wants to get there. You follow me? Just run the entire industry into the wall. Make it so that people are starting to get panicky about it again. And that's where we're going, I promise. That's where we're going. And I think that sucks. Cosmic Christie, I think about this. I said this yesterday. I think about this all the time. I'd be interested to know how brains are going to go with the ultra high THC levels that I don't think our cannabinoid receptors are equipped to take. I'm really curious as to how that's going to work as well. Sia says in Washington, it is running towards safer products. I really hope that's the case everywhere. I really do. I'm frightened. Even the nice older quick MD doctor was like, you're on 1 milligram clonazepam. I'm like, oh my God, I get it, but I'm 54. I had a psychiatrist prescribe them to me for 20 years. I used to be on higher doses. That is a lot, though. I mean, I can understand where the nice old doctor is coming from. I really can. Clonazepam ain't Valium, right? Klonopin's a, if you've never done it, Klonopin will black you out the first time you do it. That's a rugged drug. I promise you. It's a rugged drug. And you don't realize that it's a rugged drug, Debbie, because you are you're like the frog in the water, right? If you drop a frog in boiling water, it hops out. But if you put it in water and start to get the water hotter and hotter, it'll just it'll never jump out. It'll just let itself get cooked. And when you're in the middle of anything building up a tolerance, you don't realize just how sick your tolerance is, right? Because it took you so long to build it up. Yeah, Kristen Melinda, I think if he's new to the case, or if he's just never seen anybody in the, I'm never ever surprised anymore by any amount of drug that anybody does. I've told the story here a bunch of times, but I used to allow a couple of Mexican fellas to cut up cars that they were driving illegally into the United States at my apartment in Houston. They would drive to my apartment, and I had 2 garages. I rented a 2 side-by-side garage thing that you could rent at the apartments. And they would drive in, and they would tear the quarter panels off, and the whole car was just stacked with drugs, with weed. But they would throw Rohypnol in there, roofies. And I watched a dude take out a box. There used to be 32 a box, and he ate 20 of them. He popped 20 of them. I'm watching him do it, and I just figure, oh, the guy doesn't want them in the strips. He's popping them all out. But he gets the first 2 strips into his hand, and he just throws them back, right? And he's drinking a beer, right, to get this stuff down. And I went, oh my God, what are you doing? Right? Spit those out. What are you doing? And everybody started to laugh. He's like, no, he's been doing this forever, man. He's not even going to pass out. I was like, good God in heaven. But you keep doing it long enough, you keep pushing it and keep pushing it, you'd be shocked where you can get to, right? You'd be shocked where you can get to. Mom and a lot of other seniors were given benzos for years, and the doctor retired, died, and now go to new doctors that won't help them, and it's a nightmare. My mom at 78 was sick and seizing up. It's awful. Deeming, I hear this every day. Because the old doctors were the doctors that were writing prescriptions for Quaaludes, right? For Seconal, for Tuinal, for barbiturates, right? For heavy barbs. And when they took barbiturates off the market and started in with benzodiazepines, they honestly thought they had a drug that people couldn't overdose on. And when you compare it to a barbiturate, it does seem pretty damn safe. So they wrote, Mother's Little Helper. Things are much too hard today. I hear every mother say, Mother needs something today to calm her down. I had my psychiatrist accidentally put in for 2 milligram Klonopin twice a day when it was supposed to be half that. It sucked getting down to my correct dose, but now I'm doing great with my psych meds. Good for you. You know what? You reach a point in life where you go, you know what? The smallest amount of a drug I can take, the better off I am. And I promise you, my motto was if it was worth doing, it was worth overdoing. And that's how I lived forever. And I don't know what it is, but to me, drugs were always like a competition. I was always looking at the dude next to me and I'm trying to outdo him. I know it's the dumbest thing in the entire world, but it's very much who I was. It's very much what I did. I tried to out party, out everything. It's just, I missed the thalidomide joke too, Christy. But boy, I guess not too soon, huh? No, I guess we can joke about thalidomide was awful, man, awful. Drug of choice? Yeah. Well, I definitely did everything I could do. Right. I did everything I could do, but I had to do opiates every day. That was the baseline. That's what I had to do to be able to get up. But if I could do other drugs, I would. And that always seemed like catching a buzz. Right? Heroin didn't seem like catching a buzz. I had to do that to not be sick. But if you did that and then somebody was smoking crack and you could get a few hits of that or whatever, you'd feel really wasted. But I never really felt wasted on opiates. Maybe the first 2 shots back, On my rounds every hour or two. Oh, wow, that's horrific, Brumfield. No, you know something? Kristen Melinda, feel free to beat on the doctors. She says, my drug of choice was nothing specific, just more of whatever was good at the moment. Yeah, maybe I'll send you an email because I don't want to say this out loud. Just because I don't think it's the right thing to say out loud. But I understand that. It makes an awful lot of sense to me, Kristen Melinda. It really does. It's Cosmic Christie says it's still affecting people in Australia today. Most American mothers were saved the pain due to the FDA. Aussie moms, no. I had friends at school who were affected. I did too here in the United States. We definitely had a lot less here in the US, but I knew over the course of my 54 years, I knew 4 what they would call thalidomide babies, kids that were affected by thalidomide. Horrific birth defects. Thalidomide is a great example of just the best of intentions doing the most horrific things in the world. And mistakes get made. And the FDA does help a lot, Cosmic Kirsty. I have a newfound respect for the FDA since trying 3 medications that they have not approved. I got a whole different respect for the Food and Drug Administration. I know they're scumbags, but boy, when they put a stamp on something, at least it's halfway safe. I shouldn't say that. I really shouldn't. Thalidomide was not the last horrific drug by any stretch. There's been a bunch since then. A bunch. It is horrible. No question, it's horrible. Yeah, crazy Brumfield. That's just wrong. She's talking about a woman that been sitting in a wheelchair, no sleep for almost a month. It's really hard to listen to. It's awful. You've never seen any Goosebumps? I ran into 2 of them in prison. One played the drums, and he was the most unbelievable drummer you've ever seen in your life. And his birth defect affected his arms and hands. But this dude could play the drums like nothing you have ever seen. Krista Melinda says, oh man, the FDA does not have nearly the staff or resources to do the job it's been tasked to do. I believe that. I agree with you 100%. However, they're also the most crooked piece of vermin operation on the planet. The cooperation between the Food and Drug Administration and the Sackler owned pharmaceutical company Pomfret is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. Thank you, Don Gloves. I needed that, the link. But yeah, absolutely awful how much incestuous back and forth. If you got fired from the Sackler family, you went to work at the Food and Drug Administration. If you got fired from the Food and Drug Administration, you went to work for the Sackler family. And that happened back and forth so many times. That is how they were able to continue to sell OxyContin, even after when they got to the very end of the time when the name brand was going to run out. They had people in their pocket at the Food and Drug Administration. They went up and they made that BS plea to Congress. This drug is too dangerous for anyone to manufacture. We need to go back to the drawing board. In the meantime, no one else should be making generics of this. Yeah, you lowlights. They probably had the next batch already made. I believe that. Kristen Melinda says, oh, I agree. No arguments from me here. And that same incestuous back and forth happens with insurance companies and regulators too. To be sure it does. To be sure it does. And Cosmic Christie says, when people are underpaid, it leaves them open to corruption. Pay the public services well and less corruption would happen. And also proper protection for whistleblowers. That's huge. That really is huge. One of the problems with big pharma is that it's one of the few businesses on earth where the death of tens of thousands of people would be considered an acceptable loss, or the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people is just side effects, cost of doing business, that kind of garbage. I've talked about this so many times, but when they came in and said to the Sacklers had put in all of their literature that the odds of getting addicted were somewhere in the 4% range, right, for OxyContin. Such BS. But that's what they put in their literature. And when they had the board meeting to come in and say, it's way higher than that, man. It's way higher than that. The numbers are really closer to like 23 or something like that. And the oldest living Sackler said, is that where we're at? To be honest, I thought it would be higher. There are very few industries out there that are quite like that, right? Occasionally the automotive industry, you hear stories about they knew that it was going to cost them, $50 million to do a recall, or they could let, 20 people die and give their families $2 million each, save 20 million in the exchange. That kind of crap happens with some huge corporations, but it's just daily doing business at big pharma, right? There are acceptable deaths with every medication. Just part of doing business. And that's jacked up. But when they begin to lie so that they can stretch their profits out more, that's even worse. It is really freaking horrific. The Disney show on the Sacklers was painful to watch. Michael Keaton was brilliant, but oh so painful. This is what the people who are meant to protect us allow. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of them are getting paid. A lot of them are getting paid. You know who worked for the Sacklers? Rudy Giuliani. True story. He was one of the hatchet men to go out there and deal with the people that were real pissed off about OxyContin. It's disgusting. It really is. Everything that happened with that corporation is disgusting. I honestly think I would probably be willing to do the time, right, to chin check Arthur. Right, just get in there and pop him once in the head. I think that might be worth going back. It was an enzyme blocker. I had not heard of that either, Miss Dragon, but I'm sorry to hear that. All right. Okay, folks. Well, we've been here about an hour and 20 minutes. I think that probably bet that loss wouldn't be so acceptable if it was one of their loved ones. No, you know what? Absolutely the fact. And it never is, right? It never is. I promise you, those people aren't getting the same medical care we are. You know, nobody in the Sackler family is ever going to die of any of their products. Yeah, Crazy Brumfield says in '89, my first husband worked at McDonald's. He said they'd get sued sometimes and they'd prefer to pay up rather than, oops, get found out for wrongdoing. Absolutely. It's a fact. Absolutely. With really huge corporations, it's far more important about how you look, right? That they will hop through hoops to make sure that happens. Jimena, I will do that. Spanky and I were talking about you earlier. We really were. We were at lunch. I don't remember how your name came up, but we were at lunch. Jamie Smith, good to see you. This here, that's a cat in a basket. In fact, it's the world's coolest cat. She loves me. Such a good kitty. Look at her. He's a good girl. See those paws? She's got them crossed. Look at how cute that is. I'm sorry. There's nothing at Quibble's house has got anything on Squirrel Nut Zipper. She is the cutest animal of all time. Franklin, good night. Have a good night. Goosebump, have a good night. SB, Cosmic Christie. Oh, yeah, thank you, Body Illusion. That's a kind thing to say. All right, folks. Everybody have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow night. I will be back here, and then I don't know what I'm doing this weekend, but I know that I'm hoping that Quibble is going to do the Relate About tomorrow. I'm hoping she's feeling good enough to do that. On Sunday, catch the Relate About on Mother's Day. We're going to be going live together in the morning to announce the next city that we are going to be into for the Relate About. Hey, Kelly B, I hope you're feeling better. The news, not good to see you. Kelly B, I hope you are feeling better after your surgery. Sleep well. I will see all of you tomorrow night. I am the Admiral. See ya. Booyah.